Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. In NFL news this morning, Adam Schefter is reporting that former Seahawks coach Pete Carroll has agreed to a deal with the Raiders to be the next head coach in Vegas. Carroll's been out of coaching since the 2023 season, and he will, come week one, be the oldest head coach in NFL history at the age of 74. The only head coaching opening in the AFC South has been filled in dramatic fashion. The Jacksonville Jaguars are hiring Bucs OC Liam Coen just 2 days after Coen pulled himself from consideration for the job and agreed to an extension with Tampa. He goes back to Jacksonville after the Jags fired GM Trent Baalke. College hoops this weekend. Number 6 Tennessee travels to top-ranked Auburn on Saturday. College game day will be on hand. 7:30, the tip-off on the Plains. Vol Network coverage on the Zone starts at 7. Auburn star Janai Broome reportedly a game-time decision for this one. Vanderbilt hosts number 9 Kentucky tomorrow afternoon, 1:30 the tip-off, and Belmont on the road at 3 p.m. against Murray State. Conference championship weekend in the NFL, Jaden Daniels looks to become the first rookie quarterback in NFL history to win a Super Bowl. He tries to continue that effort as the Commanders visit the Eagles in the NFC title game. Kickoff at 2 Sunday in Philly. And in the AFC, Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes face off as the Bills visit the top-seeded Chiefs. You can hear both here on The Zone, courtesy of Westwood One. Coverage starts at 1 o'clock. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Stores, 615-737-1045. We're going to get in about Easton Freeze of A to Z Sports, frequent guest on here, has set down and released in full the full 90 minutes of his sit-down interview with Tennessee Titans coach Brian Callahan. We're going to talk a lot about that, a lot about the quarterback situation, right tackle, Traylon Burks over NWI, special teams, what ifs, all this stuff is going to come up in a few moments. We're also going to have Jordan DeJaney going to go around the NFL with him. All these coaching carousel news is broken. Man. But I got to start right off the top.
No. We start with the easy one first.
Okay. Bobby Slowik got fired. Is that the easy one?
The Texans offensive coordinator, who was up for a lot of jobs last year, and a lot of people saying he wasn't quite ready or yet, but man, he is the fall guy for their
Do you think he's the fall guy?
Or maybe losing I don't know, because that's the only way I can look at it.
Yeah.
They had a successful season. Maybe it wasn't the way they wanted to end, and maybe they thought they should go to the Super Bowl or maybe AFC Championship game, but Stroud didn't play as well this year, which you thought, he would have some bit of a slump a little bit here or there because the NFL catches up to some of your tendencies.
I think it caught up to Slowik's tendencies too.
Oh, maybe.
See, that's
more
where,
so.
And I think you're right.
I haven't watched that.
You got to take that extra step, right?
Yes.
That's what I kind of I caution people about Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury is that, okay, what happens in year 2? Now, we know that there's a lot of tape of Cliff Kingsbury out there, but there's not been a lot of tape of Cliff Kingsbury with Jaden Daniels, quarterback, a Jaden Daniels-esque quarterback at the NFL level at the same time. And now you're going to see probably a little bit of a dip. It's how you manage that dip. And I feel like Bobby Slowik, from everything we heard from his head coaching cycle, I don't think he managed the dip very well. And, during that head coaching cycle, John McClain, who knows everything about Houston there is to know, said some really pointed things that, the players weren't responding to him. He's a very,
This is this year, correct?
Well, last year. So
this is last year's John McClain.
So when after the Bobby Slowik initial season with C.J. Stroud, so after the 2023 season, when he was getting the head coaching jobs and all this kind of stuff, before 2024 started, John McClain said, this guy's not ready.
Yeah, that was...
And he's talking about the players not really responding to him and all this kind of stuff. And if you don't have the players responding to you, that's a big thing. And you can tell in his press conferences, he has the most mundane, boring press conferences ever. And
was he uncomfortable, or was it just he just boring?
I don't think he doesn't really look uncomfortable.
Okay.
I just think he is boring.
Okay.
And I think that
I'm okay with that.
Well, I think he's low energy would be a better word. And I feel like that low energy carries over.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like Nick Holtz, he's got a little bit of energy and pep to him, but he's not an overly exciting guy. You know what I'm saying? But
he's not boring.
He's not boring.
Like
he's not low energy. And I think that's what's going on inside that building from the way that John McClane describes it.
Yeah, I was a little shocked, especially this late to hear it today. I guess maybe after going back and maybe watching a lot of film and maybe somebody became available that they're interested in. I don't know where they're going with that.
Yeah.
Being that he came from the Shanahan tree there with the 49ers. So that'll be really, really interesting. A lot going on in AFC South now.
Yeah.
Then, hence your point that you can't wait to. Pete Carroll, by the way, new Raiders coach. That was kind of a little surprising.
Yeah,
for me.
and that's something I want to ask. Going in because now think about the AFC West: Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, Sean Payton.
Yeah.
That's a lot of freaking experience.
Well, I think that's why they went this route.
That's why I wondered
because I was trying to figure out, why did they go here? And guess what happened? A little birdie told me, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady. Did Bruce Arians come out of retirement to be the coach and coach to the Super Bowl? Oh, yeah. By the way, that's why they went down this road.
Okay, so we got to talk about this Liam Coen insanity. This is the most insane 48 hours. And
I'm insane. Wait, before you start. Yeah. I'm insane because I got this box in front of your face on my screen, and I don't know why it's on my screen, and I don't know how to get it off. It's been there the whole entire time.
Monitor? Did you bring up that monitor blue screen?
I didn't touch anything. It was here,
All right, Granddad, I'll come over there during the break and get you.
Lucas did this, and I said, hey, get that. He said, oh, no, it's all good. No, this is a box on my screen that's blue. It has VGA, HDMI, display sport, and
that's
auto.
Your little menu button on your screen.
And then it has an exit button, and it won't even let me click on the exit.
You're going to have to control it from your screen. I'll come over there and do it for you during the break because I don't want you to turn off the computer.
I hate that I can't see you, even though I can see you.
You can see me, but you can't see me. You also have to make uncomfortable eye contact with me.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
I love eye contact.
So Liam Coen has been hired as Jacksonville Jaguars, and Albert Breer has detailed and he titles it Inside the Messy 48 Hours That Made Liam Coen the Jaguars Coaches over on SportsIllustrated.com. So here's how it is so insane. So let me start off with this. On Monday, the Jason Light and Liam Coen sat down for knowing that there was a video conference, a video interview on the horizon, okay, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So before he went to that first interview, okay, the very first one, Jason Light wanted to make sure that, hey, we want to get a contract done with you to make you one of the highest paid coordinators in the NFL history, okay?
Wow.
And here's what he says. Coen came back with a salary request that would make him the highest paid coordinator in NFL history by a healthy margin. Light took the proposal back to the Glazer family, who owns the Buccaneers, and got it approved. He then went to Coen telling him he had his number, that the team loved him and badly wanted him to stay, but didn't want to negotiate anymore. Coen then met with the Glazers, the ownerships, who encouraged him to take the first interview with the Jags to, at the very least, get the experience of having done one. So let me tell you something, Blake. When you meet in the car business, where a lot of my business experience and stuff comes from, if you have a done deal and you let someone go somewhere else and sleep on it or go and shop, you're never going to see them again. Yeah. That's a general rule of thumb.
I didn't notice how this order went. I did not notice they let him go. I thought he went on.
So they will let him go for the experience.
Right.
But here's the thing. He made the trip, but the offer that they made was contingent on him not taking a second interview. Okay, so he got to go on the first one, but if he wanted to, he never signed. We're going to get to that.
He never signed it. It was a verbal agreement.
Just to know that he agreed with them that he would not take a second interview. So Coen asked to think it over, then came back and asked for more money, The Buccaneers responded by saying that the offer was the offer and they needed an answer by Monday, which is this past Monday. He later asked to have until Tuesday. Then on Tuesday, he told the Bucs he'd have an answer Wednesday morning. With his second interview with the Jags looming. This is before they fired Trent Baalke. So Wednesday morning, Coen verbally accepted the Buccaneers' 3-year deal to make him the highest paid coordinator in NFL history. Okay? He agrees. At that point, verbally, he agrees. Nothing signed.
And that comes out, actually,
and that comes out, right? Mm-hmm. We see it everywhere. Yeah. It comes out. He's the highest paid coordinator in NFL history. He talked to ownership, head coach, and a few players and sent a group text to the staff to give everyone the news. So Coen himself sent all those messages out, say, hey, I'm coming back. Okay? It wasn't long after that news broke that, of course, the Jaguars turned around and fired Trent Baalke, which changed everything about the Jaguars' pursuit of Coen.
GM. Mm-hmm.
Okay? Wednesday afternoon. So that was Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon, Coen was expected to be at one Buccaneer place to sign his deal. Efforts by team brass to get a hold of Coen failed. He started ghosting them. Around 5 p.m., Coen called back finally and asked Light if it was okay if he came in Thursday to sign the contract rather than doing it that night. And Light told him that was fine. Again, you never push off a deal in sales. So there's a lot of blame to go around, and the Buccaneers share some blame. You should have said, no, we're coming to you or you're coming to us, and we're getting this signed. Around 10 a.m. on Thursday, yesterday, the Buccaneers still hadn't heard from Liam Coen, and assistant GM Mike Greenberg had to reach out to him on a contract for another offensive coach that was being finalized. That call went unanswered too. So did additional attempts by the GM and the head coach, Todd Bowles. Finally, at 11 a.m., Coen's agent got back to the Bucs and informed them that his client was tending to a personal matter. Tampa waited a few hours, and then they all called back. Staffers, the GM, the head coach, all called him, tried to get a hold of Coen, no answer. That's 11 a.m. 5 p.m. yesterday, Coen called and told him he was still dealing with a personal matter. He told him that things had materially changed in Jacksonville, that he was going to travel there to explore the opening. Within an hour of that phone call, a Bucs staffer got tipped off by someone in the Jaguars facility that Coen was already in the building. He told me he was going to go down there, but he was already there. So this is very insane. And there's still so much more we got to get to. And we started with the Bobby Slowik stuff. But just real quick, the reason why this was tried to keep a lid on it was first because of what he told the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that, hey, I agree in principle that I will not do a second interview. So they had to keep this interview secret so just in case they didn't hire him, so he could get the highest paid contract, just in case the Jaguars didn't hire him. So that's one bit of secrecy. The other bit of secrecy is it allowed the Jaguars to satisfy the Rooney Rule. Going into Thursday morning, the Jags only had one minority candidate in for an in-person interview. Robert Saleh was the first person. They needed two to comply, so Graham was slated to come Thursday for the other, but the Jags didn't want words of their plans regarding Coen getting out, which could cause Graham to cancel. On Thursday morning with Graham in, the Jaguars called Robert Saleh to cancel his scheduled interview on Friday morning, second interview. So while Graham was there, they called the other guy and told him that his interview was canceled because they knew they were going to be going for Liam Coen.
They got their second, man.
We'll talk about Jordan DeJaney with this, and I want you to marinate on that because that's a lot of information I just give you. So I want you to think about that. That the Jags and Coen tiptoed around everyone Thursday with the team trying to jump through the NFL's prescribed hiring hoops so it can make its hire. And there you go. Like it's a little very shady, very, very shady. And he's been shady since University of Kentucky, like I was telling you, because he told everybody he was coming back to the University of Kentucky, and then he bolted first chance he got. Interesting way to do business.
I can't wait to give my take on this.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk to Jordan DeJaney about this and many other things in the NFL. But then we're also going to hear from Blaine about how he feels about this as well, coming up shortly too. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, it's a new year and time to start on your wellness goals. So if you have a nagging pain or injury that's been keeping you from fully enjoying your favorite sports or activities, golf, tennis, swimming, whatever it is, now is the time to finally take care of it. And Edge Peptide and Hormone Therapy has multiple regenerative treatment options for treating, healing, and recovering from your injuries or pain. And Edge has everything from PRP treatments to stem cell therapy. And Edge focuses on your body's natural ability to heal. And the ultimate goal is to always avoid surgery, if possible. So reduce joint pain and inflammation, promote tissue repair, and even improve mobility and function. And the new year should be about healing, and Edge is here to make that happen. So call Edge for a comprehensive consultant to create the perfect treatment plan for you at some of the most aggressive pricing you'll find in the area. So spend this month restoring so you can thrive for the rest of the year. And all you have to do is go online and check them out at edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com, or you can just give them a call today at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. It's Fan Friday. But first, we're going to Jordan DeJaney of CBS Sports. And Jordan, has there ever been a weirder coaching hire situation than what is revolving around Liam Coen?
Whoa, what's going on, guys? I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, all we're missing right now is Liam Coen resigning his position of the Jaguars head coach on a cocktail napkin, right? That's
right. That was great, JD.
Yeah, but, man, I mean, seriously, where do you start with this? Like, with Liam Coen, what's the most humorous aspect of this entire saga? We had the Jaguars retaining general manager Trent Baalke, which everyone claimed would make the position less appealing, which, of course, it did. They missed out on Ben Johnson, and it seemed like they were going to miss out on Liam Coen as well, who reportedly pulled his name out of the running to return to Tampa Bay, put his number out there for the Buccaneers, and they indeed matched to maybe make him one of the highest paid offensive coordinators in NFL history. But then the Jaguars fired Trent Baalke. Maybe they might have upped their offer to Liam Coen as well. And now this whole SI.com bombshell drops about maybe the Jaguars. Did they kind of tiptoe around the Rooney Rule, allegedly? And if this is true, this report is enough, in my opinion, for the NFL to look into what exactly happened with Liam Coen. But Liam Coen has an interesting history as a coach as it is, right? He bounces around from Kentucky to the Rams 1 year, and he stays at only one job for 1 year, it seems like. Obviously had a fantastic season with Tampa Bay and helping Baker Mayfield stay on track after his career year. But, man, I guess there's a lot to break down here.
Yeah, we were just pulled up, his career history. He's only been coaching since 2010. So, I mean, he hasn't been coaching a while, but he's only been coaching in the NFL since 2018. So you're talking about 2018, 2019, 2020, 2022, and 2024. 5 years of NFL coaching experience, 3 of which he's an assistant head coach. So he's assistant wide receivers coach for 2 seasons, assistant quarterback coach. And you're right. If I looked at this resume, and this was a salesperson's resume coming in to apply for a job, I wouldn't hire them because bouncing from job to job to job is a sign of like, this is kind of weird. And we're talking, he's gone from being, I guess, quarterbacks coach at Brown, the university, then Rhode Island, then he's back to Brown for 2 years, and he went to UMass for 2 seasons, then to Maine for 2 seasons, then the Rams for 3 seasons, Kentucky for 1 season, Rams for 1 season, Kentucky for 1 season, Tampa Bay for last year. Like, that's a lot of movement. And I understand this NFL game kind of forces this sometimes, but 5 years of NFL experience seems kind of wild that this guy was so sought after and the Jacksonville Jaguars put themselves in a precarious position for Liam Coen.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be his 6th job in the last 6 years. I guess it is, but I think it really shows you how much the Jaguars liked Liam Coen, and the Buccaneers, for that matter. They really liked Liam Coen as well. And, exiting the regular season, I maintain that Liam Coen probably deserves more credit than he got, right? Because the Buccaneers, they almost, in my opinion, became somewhat of an afterthought this past preseason with all the moves that the Atlanta Falcons made, adding Kirk Cousins and a new head coach. Baker Mayfield got his extension, but people were wondering when Dave Canales took the Panthers job, was his play going to dip? Well, it didn't. The Buccaneers finished top 3 in yards and 4th in points. And, going back, Liam Coen had people thinking Will Levis could be a potential number 1 overall pick during his days at Kentucky. So the Jaguars look at Liam Coen as a young offensive mind that can get the most out of and develop Trevor Lawrence.
But what can he do everything else? His staffing hires are going to, because I'll be honest, Brian Callahan has way more experience than him. And we saw Tennessee Titans here struggle without having veteran leadership at every coordinator position. And if I'm so interested to see the staff he assembles because he only has really NFL ties to the Rams and the Buccaneers. I mean, and you just burned one bridge. And how many people are you going to be able to steal from the Rams when they got all kinds of sought after coaches? Like, this is to me, I know a lot of people think highly of Liam Coen and all this kind of stuff. And, I'm with you. I think he did a great job at Tampa Bay. But this is a guy that's proven very little at the NFL level and doesn't have the connections. This just seems like another in a long line of disaster hires for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It might be, and maybe he needs to go back to his days at Maine and UMass and Brown for some of those connections to build out his staff, right?
Right. I mean, this is kind of crazy. We're on with Jordan DeJaney of CBS Sports. We're going around the NFL with him.
Well, I wish him the best of luck, JD, but naturally, I hope it's a debacle once again for the Jags. We need all the help we can get here in Tennessee. But speaking of debacles, let's talk a little bit about who's going to be the next head coach since we're going around the NFL for the Dallas Cowboys. Are the Cowboys hire somebody?
Well, they're looking at Schottenheimer. That's Brian Schottenheimer. That's the news right now. It looks
What
like.
is going on with this coaching search? This coaching search is drunk.
It is, but I wanted it to be more drunk, okay? I was excited for a soap opera, including Deion Sanders remaining in the headlines for weeks on end and the Cowboys bringing in everyone to talk to. That's what I was expecting, and we kind of got the opposite, right? The Deion Sanders hype died down. They haven't brought in a myriad of prospects to really talk to, but it is on par with Jerry Jones to kind of promote with them with Brian Schottenheimer, someone he respects very highly. Now, nothing is official just yet, but man, some of the backlash from Cowboys fans, it doesn't seem like Brian Schottenheimer would be a head coaching hire that the Cowboys fan base, if you will, could really get behind. He has a pretty extensive resume. He's the son of an NFL legend as well, but the search is not over just yet, but it does seem like it's leaning towards Brian Schottenheimer.
Well, let's go around the clock here with New Orleans. Who's the front runner?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a front runner right now, to be honest with you. I know that they were absolutely in on Aaron Glenn. And let's be real, the Saints, in my opinion, were the the least attractive open job during this coaching carousel. The financial situation is a mess. A lot of their key contributors on the roster are aging players, and there's the issue of Derek Carr, who I'm not very high on, and he also put out there that he's not willing to take a pay cut. So there's that whole situation to figure out. Now, I think the Saints' job would be really prime for someone who is not a first-year lead man. Maybe someone like Mike McCarthy, because he's someone who has a ton of experience. And I feel like the Saints organization may need that as they prepare for what could end up being a major rebuild. But with that being said, even though they're the lone team, or they're one of two teams now looking for a head coach since all the other spots have been filled, I still think that there are plenty of attractive candidates out there on the open market. I've talked to you guys a lot about Joe Brady of the Buffalo Bills. That's a Louisiana legend who I think could be interesting in terms of being a prospect. Todd Monken with the Baltimore Ravens is someone who you can't overstate the kind of impact he's had on Lamar Jackson and the offense for the Ravens over the past couple of years as well. And, of course, I already talked about McCarthy. So there are legitimate options, attractive options for the New Orleans Saints.
And lastly, about the coaches, Pete Carroll to the Raiders. Man, I was kind of stunned, but, finding out a little bit about the history here with the Tampa Bay Bucks and Tom Brady and Bruce Arians coming out of retirement with Tampa Bay, I guess they say we need to compete with all the veteran coaches in our conference, in our division. And so this is the way to go, man. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a good point by you. I knew that Pete Carroll's name was linked to the Raiders, but I really didn't think it was going to happen, right? And there will be some that don't like this hire because Pete Carroll is older than all of our parents. But what I do like about this hire is that he has experience, right? And maybe we can even call it stability. The Raiders thought they had it with John Gruden. Then the emails came out. They thought they had it with Josh McDaniels. That was a big yikes. And the Raiders thought they had kind of a culture hire in Antonio Pierce, but he was a first-year guy that didn't do enough in his first season to keep the faith of ownership. With Pete Carroll, the Raiders would have a Super Bowl winning head coach that found success with a surprising rookie quarterback back in the day. He coached one of the most exciting secondaries and defenses in the modern era. He found surprising success following the departure of Russell Wilson as well. And that's just his resume of late. This guy's been coaching since the 1970s, and he has a great personality that can endear himself to the locker room as well. So I wasn't imagining Pete Carroll being the first hire of the quote-unquote Tom Brady era for the Las Vegas Raiders, but here we are.
Do you think it'll be a reconnection with Russell Wilson?
Or Geno Smith, a trade for Geno Smith?
Oh, I mean, man,
Yeah. We already saw a report out there. In fact, one of my bosses brought it up to me today. He's like, well, is Russell Wilson on his way to Vegas? And I was like, well, you have to remember that Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll kind of had a weird falling out towards the end of their Seahawks days. Like, it was reported that Russell Wilson went to ownership and said, I need Pete Carroll and the GM fired, and he tried to push back on that narrative, saying it was untrue. But ESPN also reported that Russell Wilson wanted out of Seattle because he felt like Pete Carroll and the coaching staff weren't getting the most out of him and that he would fare better in another situation. And we saw how that happened with the Denver disaster. But Russell Wilson is now a free man. He's a free agent. And according to reports, they've kind of hashed out their beef, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. And, yeah, we've seen some early reports that Russell Wilson could potentially be the bridge quarterback for the Raiders as they begin this rebuild, right? They're not sitting up there with the number 1 overall pick like the Tennessee Titans. If they wanted to land Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, they would have to trade up the draft board potentially. And then the free agent market is a bit tricky with some of these veteran players. So if you want that stability and to get this franchise on the right track, maybe it's going to a quarterback you have some familiarity with.
There you have it. Jordan DeJaney, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
So the Tennessee Titans, since the last we talked to you, of course, have hired Mike Bergonzi and all this kind of stuff, general manager. Everything's come out, been kind of clarified about the power structure and stuff. The press conference was a few days ago. What have you heard, and what are your thoughts surrounding the hire of Mike Bergonzi for the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, first of all, probably like everyone, I was a bit surprised. I mean, I literally wrote the article for John Eric Sullivan and filed it to my company for use when the news came down. And listen, with Bergonzi, I'm never going to claim any general managing prospect is the next big thing because you have no idea how these guys are going to fare when they sit down in the big chair. But objectively, Bergonzi seems like one of the best GM options out there, right? A guy who has been with one franchise for, 16 years, and that franchise ended up becoming a dynasty. He has a great scouting background as well, so he understands how things are done. And I wanted to ask you guys, did we get more clarity about the power structure? Like, there was nothing earth-shattering in the press conference, and Brinker and Bergonzi were kind of hit hard by reporters on the final say and the power structure. I know that Bergonzi said, I will pick the players. This is going to be my roster, and I'm the draft process. But, it still remains to be seen. Is Chad Brinker going to throw his weight around in certain scenarios? Well, maybe that's a question we'll never have answered.
Well, I think that he has the power to do so, but I think ultimately how they kind of put it like this to me is that in my interpretation of it, all the big decisions will be made by the time the decisions have to be made, if that makes sense. So by the time draft rolls around, they're all on the same page of what the draft plan is, who the players are, how the big board's set up. Same with free agency. Their free agency board will be pretty much set. Here are our plans. Here's plan A, plan B, plan C. In the middle of all that time, Chad Brinker, if he feels necessary, will throw his weight around for what's best in his mind for Tennessee Titans. But at the end of the day, it will still be a collaborative effort. It's just that maybe Brian Callahan's voice has become less powerful in the room. The coaching staff's voice has become less powerful in the room. And it's really Chad Brinker, Mike Bergonzi going to run the show. That's how I took it. Is that how you kind of took it, Blaine?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I would just say ultimately it starts with them working as a team, and then the power structure is that Brinker's at the top. They all work together hand in hand, and trust and respect has to go along with that for them to be successful in believing in one another. And that's not to say that somebody's going to have a bad pick or not, but they got to be in unison once they make decisions. And I think that's really what's going to happen. I think Bergonzi's actually is going to have a lot of say-so, and he's going to lean to Brinker if, there's something they disagree on, and he may, let him make the choice.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And to be quite frank, I'm a little tired of talking about it, right? Who is in control of the roster? Who has the power structure? I'm just looking forward to Trey Smith being a Tennessee Titan in 2025.
There you go. The Texans fire Bobby Slowik. I'm not too shocked. I'm actually more shocked it lasted this long. He's had a job this long. I figured it'd be a couple of days after that last performance. Is this more about... Is he a scapegoat, or is this really about, how the rumors have kind of popped up over the last two seasons that he's kind of, according to John McClain, just doesn't have that it factor enough to keep a locker room engaged?
From the most popular NFL head coach sleeper to out of a job in the span of 1 year. How the turntables turn, right?
Right.
I mean, he was viewed as a main reason for C.J. Stroud's success in 2023, and for good reason, by the way. But I think opposing defenses may have caught up to him in 2024, and Slowik didn't do enough to adjust. And I would specifically point to the offensive line and the protections, which is why the offensive line coach is now out of a job as well. I mean, Stroud's production dipped in virtually every statistical category. He led the NFL in passing yards per game and interception percentage in 2023, but kind of fell off a cliff in 2024. He took 52 sacks compared to 38 in 2023. Now, I would not say Bobby Slowik is a scapegoat. I do appreciate the high bar that the Texans are trying to set with what they have because they want to be legitimate contenders. But the 2024 campaign looked a lot different than the 2023 campaign. I'm still a little surprised by the move because, let's be real, Bobby Slowik is a second-year offensive coordinator, and he showed tremendous promise in that first year. He definitely dipped in his production in 2024, but he also just signed a lucrative extension, 12 months ago. I feel like I probably would have tried to keep him in-house and see how he can develop and learn from what was a tough second season. But the Texans said, you know what, we're going to cut you loose and we're going to try to go in a different direction.
Any insight on who they may go after?
Yeah, it's tough coming up with offensive coordinator candidates, but I'll probably swing for the fences. What about like Clint Kubiak, the guy who was with the New Orleans Saints last year, got the Saints off to a really hot start in 2024 before all the injuries caught up to him. What about Arthur Smith, the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator? I think he's still under contract with Pittsburgh, but with how things ended, is he someone looking for a different situation? And I feel like the Texans' OC job could be kind of attractive, right? Working with C.J. Stroud. Josh McCown. Wasn't Josh McCown in the running for the Texans head coaching job a few years ago? What if Josh McCown is ready to take a step up and be an OC? So those are a couple of names I'm trying to keep an eye on.
You would think this late in the game, they already have interviews ready to rock and roll, you would think. So we should be hearing names here shortly. Last question, and I think this may be the most important question we ask you today. Is it time that the offensive linemen of the NFL get an annual award from the NFL, like an NFL Honors Best Lineman Award? Because, everybody else gets their due, right? The defensive players get their due, the offensive players, the quarterbacks, everybody gets their due, but the offensive linemen get nothing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more for these individual awards because I think it would make even if it's a wide receiver of the year award, I'd be totally in support of that because it would make MVP more enticing and more intriguing in my opinion. But yeah, I thought Deion Dawkins of the Buffalo Bills had a fantastic idea. The offensive linemen, they never get any love, and they're so important for any team. And, I even brought up in the article, I was like, the only time you hear offensive linemen's names on the TV broadcast is when they're making mistakes, right? You don't hear about the great offensive linemen who are doing their jobs every single snap. So I would absolutely be in favor of this. I think we need to give more love to the offensive linemen.
I love it. I loved it when Deion Dawkins came out and said that. And he got a lot of support to start pushing for it. So maybe we'll see it next year. Maybe that'll be on the do the owners have to approve that? Is that how it works?
I don't know. The Associated Press is definitely going to have a role in it, but I don't know how we vote on awards and how exactly they're formulated. But it sounds like Deion Dawkins is legitimately fighting for this to happen. He's trying to spearhead the effort, which I'm totally in favor of.
Yeah, I saw that. I know a lot of people, would say the Texans also going to be fighting to get Todd Downing. Okay. We'll let you
go. Thanks, Jordan, for coming around and taking us around the NFL. Really appreciate it. Jordan DeJaney of CBS Sports, who usually joins us on Wednesday, but we had a press conference to talk about.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate it, JD.
All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from Blaine and his thoughts on that whole Tampa Bay-Jacksonville scenario with Liam Coen. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. Next hour, we'll talk about Brian Callahan and his interview with Easton Freeze. We got about like 8 or 9 clips of Brian Callahan that we're going to play that cover everything from what went wrong with Will Levis in 2024 and all the way to was right tackle not on the list of checked boxes? Like pointed questions from Easton. You have to give Easton props. He's like, what happened? What'd y'all do at right tackle this season?
Yeah, I love when he said that.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about all that kind of stuff and everything. But real quick, Blaine, what are your thoughts? I brought it up over the first hour. We talked about with Jordan DeJeaney. We talked a little bit off air. What are your thoughts about this whole Tampa Bay, Liam Coen, Jacksonville Jaguars triangle?
Well, his meteoric rise to be a head coach is pretty fascinating. Just looking at his resume, first and foremost, that doesn't mean he's going to be ethical or this is not ethical. I look at it as this is business, and he played his cards right. He was playing chess, and everybody else was playing checkers. And as you know, at the end of the day, this was about business. He found a way to get elevated and get his job. And by the way, now gets to pick his GM. So you could say it looks a little shady. Tampa Bay, to me, had some little missteps. I don't know why that happened. Maybe there were some other things that we don't know by not forcing him to sign the contract immediately or somewhere thereabout instead of him being able to delay time. That would have been a little fishy for me. Just thinking, hey, we need to start looking at other options if he doesn't sign, because nothing's done until it's signed. Now, typically, verbal means it's actually almost written to a certain extent. So,
I mean, they did have it written because they were trying to get him to come in and sign it.
Yeah, so you should have just taken it to him or what have you. But, I think it's a little sketch. And now, also, his agent, who is heavily involved in this, is playing the game too.
Right.
So he may be just following the lead. I don't know who his agent is, but he's following the lead of that, and his agent's job is to get him the best deal possible. And for him, getting the Jags job and getting to pick his GM is the best thing could ever happen to a first time. I don't know who his relationships are and all that. And maybe he has somebody in mind, but this could be really interesting and fun for him. Guess what, though? I kind of like it for Titans purposes because this is a first-time head coach who now has a lot of power and clout with the organization, and so that's probably good for the Titans.
He's getting it's being reported by Jordan Schultz that he is getting Ben Johnson type of money, which means he'll easily surpass double figures in the $1 million range.
So over 10.
Over 10. Easily surpass over 10.
17?
I'd have to go back and check.
I think so.
But this is pretty big from a standpoint of a guy that, again, 5 years of NFL experience at any level, 3 of which he was an assistant coach.
Yeah, assistant like DB
He's
coach.
He's been an offensive coordinator for Sean McVay, which means you don't get to have play calling. And then was an offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay last year, which, again, you have a really good offensive line, 2 good running backs, 3 great wide receivers, really, and a good quarterback. Like, how much of this is really the Liam Coen magic is the question I want to, ask.
I'm not opposed to, rolling the dice, and I think Shaq Khan has shown he's kind of a roll the dice kind of guy.
But they always come up snake eyes.
Right. There's no
he craps out.
That's why I said this is, I'm cheering for this. I'm hoping that it does not work, but it could work. Reason why I say that is because when we talk about Harbaugh that's with the Ravens, he was just a special teams coach there in Philly when I was there. He had no head coaching and no position coaching, by the way.
Right.
And he got the job and has done an exceptional job. And naturally, he's still there 15, 20 years later. So, you just never know who sits in that seat who is built to be leader of men. So I can't say that. I have never met him or talked to him, but his resume shoots to if you're hiring someone that this person bounces around all the places and you're going to make this guy the stable person. Just think about any job in the last 5 years, they've had 5 different jobs. And you're looking at their resume and you go, oh man, he's a good quality candidate. But you go, man, how long is he going to be here with us?
Yeah, a 5-year
coach
deal
makes him say, I'm going to be here.
Yeah. A 5-year deal. He gets to pick the GM, and I think that is also going to create an interesting power dynamic, right? We talked about power dynamic. A guy, he's probably going to hire a guy with more NFL experience than him.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
Which is fine, but
I hope it is.
Like, I mean, that's what you need, right? You don't want to get a rookie GM, really. I mean, or a inexperienced and resume GM. But like, I look at it and I go, so he got hired first. He's got the big bucks. He's hiring this general manager.
Like giving clout like he's won a Super Bowl, have done a lot in his league.
This just seems like such a weird setup for the Jacksonville Jaguars to do. And it seems like this seems very Urban Meyer-esque, right?
That's what I was just about to say.
This seems so much like, now he's not Urban Meyer from a personal standpoint, I assume. No. He is not. But from a coaching perspective, GM perspective, the way they've gone about the hiring process, this seems like it's almost Urban Meyer-esque.
Shad Khan must have really loved Liam Coen and it would do anything to ultimately even fire the GM who everybody said needed to go
anyway. Fired anyway.
right, a couple years ago. But
do you think this is more of a reaction to not landing Ben Johnson? Do you think now he said,
a lot of people are saying that.
I couldn't get Ben Johnson, so let me get who I think could be the next Ben Johnson.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's it. But to me, he could have done that with Ben Johnson. Maybe he regretted it that he didn't get rid of Balky, and now he is now doing that and letting, Coen, pick his GM, man, which is fascinating because that's like the dream of a coach with no history of being a head coach. Yeah. He gets everything carte blanche right off the bat.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I've never seen this
5
in the NFL.
years in the NFL.
Like he's got a clout, like he's been to numerous playoffs and maybe even a Super Bowl or something. Man, this is really strange, but hey,
and his teams have seen just like a first round exit, right? I mean, like his offense kind of stalled at the worst possible time. As a Titans fan, I'm glad the Jaguars are doing this. Yes. I have very little faith that this is going to work out. So I'm all in, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will be the time.
What do you think of the matchup with him and Trevor Lawrence?
It should work, right? But how much time are you going to be able to focus on it? You're the head coach too.
Will Levis to the Jaguars?
Yeah, well, here's the plan. Okay, so here's the new offseason mantra for everybody. This will not happen, by the way, but this is the offseason mantra. Trade Will Levis to Trevor Lawrence straight up. Trade Trevor Lawrence for more top 100 picks. There you go. And then draft your quarterback and just get rid of Trevor Lawrence. Just pass the hot potato.
That's a little too much. Sounds fun. That sounds like something Jackson would do if he got to be the GM.
Yeah. But, I think it would be good for Trevor Lawrence maybe in the short term. But, at the end of the day, how much is if he focuses all in on Trevor Lawrence, then other things are going to fall to the wayside. Yeah. And I just don't see that he has the experience running a program. He didn't even run the program at Kentucky. Where is this experience at?
He hasn't went anywhere. UMass, any of the places he was at.
The highest he's ever been as an offensive coordinator.
Oh, man. Good news is this will help us get Will Levis off the payroll.
You think so?
Yeah, we're gonna trade Will Levis to the Jags. So
I don't know because usually in division trades doesn't usually happen.
I was hoping he would stay at Tampa Bay because I was like, okay, we could trade him as the backup for Baker Mayfield and do some work behind the scenes.
But are you really scared of Will Levis going to the Jaguars?
No, exactly. I'm not scared. I just thought you could have got more value.
Nobody's saying they're scared. We're just saying usually trading within the division doesn't normally happen.
Unless you're the NFC North. They like to do that all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, the AFC South doesn't ever do it.
We got someone said, we're really talking about the Jags? LOL, come on, guys, and F&M Bank Chat on YouTube. I'm like, this is pretty funny news.
Yeah, also, you have to play the Jaguars 2 times a year. Knowing who Liam Coen is, what that offense is going to be, as a team that's lost to them twice in 2024, it's probably pretty pertinent that
we're about to give you so much Titans information. It's Friday. Just chill out. That's how. Relax. Go with the flow.
Yeah, I'm hoping this is just like the Urban Meyer hire. I never thought that was going to work.
Yeah.
Never.
But this is shaping up the same way.
Bananas thought that was a great hire.
He loved Urban Meyer.
For the Titans.
All right, when we come back, there will be more cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. We're going to talk about Brian Callahan and his sit-down interview with A to Z Sports' Easton Freeze coming up next.
Cool.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. You want to get on this Fan Friday as we just jump right in. Easton Freeze, frequent guest, contributor over at A to Z Sports here in Nashville, had a 90-minute sit-down with Brian Callahan. And he was, and as you can go over to A to Z Sports to find it, and I'm sure it's also on their YouTube page. And there was a lot of interesting things. I mean, they hit on over 33 topics. Now, obviously, we're not going to get to all 33, but 33 topics.
Man, I'm so disappointed in you, Zach.
Yeah, no. I wish I could do. We talk too much to try to cover 33 topics. We have more word salad and run-on sentences on this show than a Chad Brinker interview.
To be fair, that entire interview is literally all but 30 minutes of our shows.
Yeah, like. Let me say something. If we can talk, Brian Callahan can yap. He's an A1 yapper as well.
I listened to it all.
Yeah. I thought it was very insightful. It was informative. I think a lot of self-reflection. I think if you're a Titans fan, that's something you can kind of latch onto throughout this whole thing, this whole mess, is that, okay, Brian Callahan himself recognizes where he went wrong, things that he wishes he would have done different, things he didn't do quick enough. And that should give you at least solace to know that you're not likely to see the same mistakes that you saw on the field in 2024 and 2025.
But then it'll lead you to different mistakes.
It could. It could lead you to different mistakes. But I think the biggest topic, of course, coming from it is what he thought of Will Levis in 2024 and what went wrong with Will Levis in 2024. So we're going to kind of talk about that. And let's first go to what went wrong with Levis in 2024 and what Callahan thought about that.
No, I think it's one of those things that you just, Will's in a new system, a new way of doing things. A lot of, everything about Will in the offseason portion was encouraging in the sense that he was getting a new system down, handling the verbiage, the play calls, the process, the huddle. All that was good. You see Will's physical talent. He's big and strong and tough. He can throw the ball. I thought he had a pretty strong training camp. And I think when you watch how he started the Chicago game, that's what I saw. That's what I thought we were capable of being. And even in the Jets game, he did some good things as we moved the ball down the field and against a good defense, especially at that time. I mean, they were damn good early in the season when they were healthy. And we moved the ball
in the league when they fired Saleh, which changed quickly.
Yeah, and that's who they were. That's how they were the last couple of years. I mean, it's a tough defense, and Chicago was a good defense. So we played two good defenses early, and there was some things about how he operated that was encouraging. And then, I think the offensive line play affected him. We weren't good enough up front, so it hits, takes a ton of sacks, and then it sort of spirals from there. And ultimately, when you win 3 games, nothing was good enough, but certainly we weren't good enough at the quarterback spot over the course of the season to be in position to win more games than 3.
So a little bit of the offensive line, a little bit of maybe a tough start just got into his head. What did you think about, his pretty much candid? He's like, hey, the offseason, he did some really good things, and we saw it in spurts in these first 2 games, but there was just no consistency.
Yeah, that's what I talk about. We talk about always the off season and how everybody's all happy-go-lucky. But until you get into the fire of things, do you really know what a player's like? And I think when I listen to him, he talks more about his timing and accuracy weren't efficient. And that's probably the type of quarterback that's really good for my system. Also, as well as he also identified what Will F's strengths were, which was his strong arm, play action pass, which then became an issue because of blocking, of course.
Right.
So all of those things match up, and even Mason Rudolph couldn't really run the offense. So with a lot of other things around him with the offensive line, special teams, the defense, every red zone. I mean, so there was a lot of different things there. But I think when I listen to him, he's nicely saying he's just not really a fit for what we're trying to do at this point in time. I think, really, to be honest, I think he wants to say, maybe in a couple of years he's probably be ready, but I don't have that kind of time. Never said that, but that's what I took from it, and that Will Levis's future as a starter could still happen, just probably not here unless it happens on coincidence with somebody getting injured and he's still here and available. But it's probably a situation, knowing what he knows now about, what Will Levis is, not picking out have his outlets, understanding just the whole system and scheme. He just wasn't quite ready yet, and it was a little overwhelming. And under pressure, under duress, when they needed plays the most, Levis didn't make them.
And he did talk about the square peg round hole. He talked about, did Levis feel like an imperfect fit in this Callahan offense?
Well, at the end of the day, it's my job to find a way to fit that the right way.
Sure.
And we did things that I tried to play as many strengths as Will had, and some of that's the deep play action, 3-level throws, things where you got, but the problem with that is now you got to hold the ball, and so we were in a little bit of a juxtaposition of trying to maintain some of those deep down the field throws, the play action where you got time to sort of see things develop versus having to get the ball out, and having to play a style of offense that relies on timing because we don't have a lot of time. And so how do we best get the ball out of our hands? And that's probably not, what Will's strengths are. Will's, not a precision timing passer at this point, and he's a young player. Those are the things you develop over time. But that's where we were in a bit of a pickle, is that we're trying to protect the line and trying to make sure we get the ball out so we don't take negative plays. And you're mixing that with what Will does well, which is throw the ball down the field. And, it takes time to get down the field. You have to protect to get down the field. And I thought we did at times a really nice job. And then at other times it was not nearly good enough. And that to me is the biggest difference, is that we were trying to deal with a couple of different issues. Again, not just Will in terms of what he does and what he does well, but we were sort of caught in between. And I think that did Will a bit of a disservice too, to not be able to play to his strengths. So again, not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, if you will. It was more trying to manage where our deficiencies were offensively and try to best put us in position to have success. And is that necessarily Will's strengths at this moment? No, Will's strengths is being able to get down the field and throw balls deep and deep sail routes and post routes and comebacks and things like that. And we had to manage both of those things at the same time, which I think was challenging both for us offensively and for Will.
Not a precision timing passer. I think that's super telling to me. And he said that his really the only thing he talks about that he does well is that he throws the ball down the field. He can throw it far. But I do find it interesting that they tried to incorporate some of the stuff that he does do well to get the ball down the field. But the protection was just too bad on that right side, which will be our next thing that we go into. But what do you think about his comments that he's not a precision timing passer?
Oh, no, those are all true. But the only thing I can say here is when I listen to him, as much as all those things are true, they never got better throughout the season. I've said this continuously over and over again, and it didn't matter who was at quarterback. So we can just talk about Will Levis if you want to, but it was even when Mason Rudolph, that's how I said, we know what he is. He's not the answer.
Right.
And the offense was the exact same. So where is it at in this whole process? Where his accountability is? I think he's been accountable, but at the same time, he should have tried something else, something more than that. Here's why I say that. Do you think Mr. Kelly, who was the OC with Vrabel the last year, only that 1 year, is a better OC because he's not the head coach than Brian Callahan?
No.
But why was Levis better under that offense?
Because they just threw it deep. It was just, that's all they did.
Right. Well, what they did was they played to his strengths, what I actually said, with probably just as much deficient offensive line, by the way. And the only thing is they had Derrick Henry.
Right.
So
play action probably worked a little bit better with Derrick Henry.
Right. But at the same time, I've said all season long, you want to see improvement regardless of the record. And I did not see that from every level of position on the team. That's what was more concerning to me. And he talks about timing. You know what a timing route is? Fake and throw right on a rope on a slant.
Yeah.
That's a timing route. He couldn't do that. Now we're going a little bit far. Maybe he couldn't do the timing to your satisfactory, but I would say that he isn't as bad as you want. Now, when the time became pressure points, that's where I completely agree with them on Levis. But other than that, I feel like coaches are supposed to, especially your quarterback, help them to be better. And it's not about the system. It's about the players that fit the system, and you work around those players' attributes. Those are excellent coaches.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like he tried, but now let me say this: it sounds like he tried, but he put the onus then on the offensive line. You get what I'm saying? Like he tried, but he blames the offensive line of why.
Here's what I would have done. Then I would have went 2 tight end sets, max protect. Nobody touches my quarterback, and if it's not there, you run or throw it away. Let's make the decisions easy for the quarterback if he's having problems making decisions.
That would be a good question to ask. And that at some point, maybe someone can ask Brian Callahan this. Do you feel like you gave Will Levis outs that he didn't take? Right? Because that's what you're kind of asking. Did you simplify the offense enough?
It's easy for him to say yes. I want to say, what did you actually do to make it easy for him?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what did you do? Did you feel it? Then you got to follow up with, what did you do? Like, what are some specific things that you did?
And it's nothing against Callahan. This goes on all over the place in the National Football League. I'm like, man, they're using this guy thinking he's going to be – he's not – that's not his strength.
Yeah.
The great coaches use guys in their strengths.
Right.
And now, naturally, at some point in time, whatever position is, you're going to have to do something that you're not great at.
Right.
But you leave it up to them to continue to improve throughout not only the season, even in the offseason, because you're giving them a plate of things that they need to work on, and then they come back better. So that's the only thing I could really say about them. I like everything else about them is that the team theoretically didn't get better. I could say the special teams got better.
Yeah.
But
that guy's gone.
He got gone, right? So they cost him his job.
Yeah.
But offense and defensively, they didn't get better. Like they messed up in the red zone on defense. Well, that never changed. Offense continued to turn the ball over and get penalties. That never changed. Like, where was the improvement? That's all I'm asking, because other than that, we can make up all kinds of excuses with injuries, the quarterback play, the O-line play. Yeah, but did the team get better?
Yeah.
Now, I don't care about the record. Now,
and he said, hey, listen, the record's the record. There, believe he said something to the effect, there's no excuses or something to that fact. I mean,
he takes ownership of that.
Yeah.
No, there's no way around that.
Yeah, there's no way around it.
But I just wanted to see the team get better. And I said this during the season. I get tired of the offensive linemen jumping off sides.
Yeah.
And this team couldn't afford to be 5 yards back. Guess what? You talking about, I'm not a big proponent of taking players out and go stand on the sideline like you're in college. But after about so many times, that would have happened with me with the offensive line flinching like that. I'm sorry. Dude, you guys are grown men getting paid to do this job. Hey, man, I can't go out there and do the job for you.
Right.
Like, come on, man. We done had enough of this. And I don't care who it was. It could have been your first time doing it. Enough is enough. You're sitting in the film room watching it with everybody else. We're watching it together. So, yeah, there were certain little things to me that they're unacceptable.
There you go. We'll continue the conversation of what Brian Callahan had to say. We'll talk about the right tackle situation. We're going to talk about why he chose Traylon Burks over NWI for so long. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for European car repair needs now for 26 years. We've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we are now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn of a backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations, repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. Oh, some Blaine said you. Bananas.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. If you want to get in, we're talking about Brian Callahan, Tennessee Titans, Will Levis, and we're going to go straight into the right tackle. And basically he asked, hey, Rand Carthon said Easton Freeze, sat down with Brian Callahan for 90 minutes.
He did an excellent job, too. Great questions.
Yeah. And he said, hey, Rand Carthon said he looked at the offensive staff's list of everything he gave them that they needed to be a good team, and he checked off every box. Was right tackle not on that box? And if so, and if it wasn't, was that a misevaluation of what you had in-house? Mm-hmm. Here's what he had to say.
I think we were hopeful that, between the guys that we had in-house, there'd be someone that would compete and rise to the top. And that there was options potentially to improve it in free agency. But again, it's hard to find tackles in free agency, and there're just not a lot of them that get free. And then when they do, they cost a ton of money. Mm-hmm. And, I can't remember exactly what the market was at the time in the free agency, but, we certainly felt like we would have somebody that could rise up and be at least serviceable. And ultimately that wasn't the case. We didn't get good enough play. Again, particularly early, I think Nick Petit actually ended up settling in and playing okay as the season went along. But early on, it was rough. We had a rough time against some good pass rushers, and even ones that weren't that good, we still had a rough time with them, and that was disappointing. And we kind of tried every possible way to see who could rise up, and no one.
We know.
Yeah, no one.
Who's the flavor of the week this week is what we got to at some point. Fair to say that's going to be near the top of the list of needs to address this offseason?
Yeah, we have to address, we still got to keep building our offensive line. I think all the good teams, you look at them all playing right now, they all got fronts, on both sides of the ball. And we have to continue to add pieces on both sides, both the offensive line and the defensive line. We still need rush help. We still need right tackle. Those are all things that I think everyone sees, and we see as well, that those are sort of priorities and areas of need for us to continue to try to improve. And like I said, the best teams playing right now affect the quarterback up front on defense, and they protect it on offense. And you can, statistically, certainly, we didn't do either one of those at a level that's probably good enough for us to win more games. And right now, that's a big area for us to improve.
Okay, so he takes it on the chin and says, "Hey, we misevaluated. Also, the players didn't rise up. Sometimes you gotta have someone rise up, and nobody did. And it's top of the list. And it needs to be to fix that right side, because obviously they can't do anything if they don't have both tackle spots locked down in some form or fashion."
Yeah. He definitely said that, and he said we were hopeful someone would rise up. So I was trying to find out, naturally we want to find out who was to blame. Well, it sounded like to me, he said we signed some guys, but they ultimately didn't get the job done. And then when MPF eventually got back, he got back to being okay. Okay means he's
bad.
Fired.
Yeah, means
he
bad.
Gets cut. So to me, it sounds like the coaches thought that they had signed enough players, whether it was Rand or the coaches. They thought, naturally, we all know that two of the Browns, one retired.
I don't think they realized they created a competition against a bunch of people that are all bad.
Yeah. Well, what I can say is that they got the Dylan Raylings right, at least when healthy, playing at guard, which is what I thought he was. And I said this in training camp, that I thought he'd have a good season, that he'd win the battle, and he actually did. Maybe out of default by any means, but it did happen that way. Interesting, though, what's more important? We all know the right side is not being addressed. So what's more important, the right guard or the right tackle?
Both. Right tackle's always going to be more important than guard, but you can't go in with, a scrub at any one of these guys. It can't just be just a guy. Mm-hmm. You can't do that again. Unless you have.
What do you mean? What's just a guy? Like, they didn't just have guys. These guys were drafted. MPF was drafted.
Yeah, but he ended up being. They both ended up being just a guy. Like, you could get drafted high and not be anything in the NFL by NFL standards. I'm not saying that they weren't good prospects or didn't have athleticism or deserved to get it.
What they did in the NFL.
But when you're in the NFL, you got to rise to the occasion. You got to find pedigreed guys. Like you got to find, whether that's a young guy in the draft, you got to find someone that's like J.C. Latham on the other side. You got to find someone. I mean, you could probably get away with Daniel Brunskill, but again, how much better? How much better? Yeah, I mean, you could find a second-round pick or whatever. I mean, like it's not very linear. It's there's multiple ways to attack it.
Well, what if I was putting together a team? This would just be a little bit of my philosophy. I don't want to be young everywhere in a position group. I don't want to be old everywhere in a position group. So for me, the youth there is already there. You got Cushenberry who's coming back from injury. So not forget that.
Right. There's multiple ways to attack it.
So Brunskill actually brings value to me because he can play multiple positions.
But we've seen him. He can't do it for a full 17 games.
No. Well, but guess what? There has to be options out here for the center spot as well. So let's not forget he's coming off an Achilles. Really tough injury to come back from really fast. So you got to have someone who has starting experience or that you feel like can. So now you're trying to get 3 guys, maybe 2 prioritizing, but at the same time, it's the center. So I think if I was doing a 1-year deal, I wouldn't be opposed to bringing Radins back on a 1-year deal, obviously, but I don't know who's available. But I tell you one thing, I'm not spending a first-round pick on a right tackle.
Oh, well, heck no.
I'm definitely not doing that.
No.
So
you've heard my saying on that.
So
There's
do you
no
go
way.
veteran at guard or do you go veteran at right tackle? Depending on what's available.
Well,
I don't know. You know better than me.
I mean, I would rather have Trey Smith.
No, you're talking about player now.
Yeah.
But I said, what's more available?
Well, I mean, I
love Trey Smith too. I love Trey Smith coming out of college, but I didn't see nobody else did.
Right. But what I'm saying is like when you start diving into guard is always going to be a more flushed position in the NFL. Your tackles are scarce. So you are going to have many options at guard. Your options at right tackle are very limited. That's why I lean in the second round. I'm probably looking at a right tackle in the second round because I don't think a quality one will be there in the 4th round because tackles usually just go high. So that's where I look at right there. So, like, to me, free agency is probably the spot you can attack guard. Because, like you said, you can get a Dylan Radins. You can have a Daniel. Like, those guys really scream more backup utility players to me. So, like, let's get... Like, if you can't get Trey Smith, let's get someone in between what Trey Smith is and what Dylan Radins is.
Yeah, that's the perfect fit.
Yeah. And then for right tackle, I think you're going to have to go young. You may be able to get like an old guy that maybe switches sides, like a Dwayne Brown or Ronnie Stanley or something like that.
In a backup role.
Well, and you could start them, but you have to have depth behind them. So you're going to still have to find the youth. They're just in a really bad spot for missing on all these right tackles year after year before even Brian Callahan got in here.
Yeah.
Just real quick, Jim Wyatt just dropped a news article.
Uh-oh.
And he talked to Brian Callahan at the East-West Shrine Bowl. And because he's there, Jim Wyatt's there, I've seen his little video, and asked him about what he saw from Shadur Sanders today. Now, Shadur did not throw today, but he is going to participate in practices throughout the week, but he didn't throw today for whatever reason. I don't know what that is about that, but here's what Callahan said of his first impression of Shadur Sanders. You can tell he's been raised right. He's mature. He has a really poised way about him, and he seems like a really good kid. I enjoyed talking to him, and you could tell he's a guy who's been in the spotlight. He knows how to handle himself. He's been paid money, so he has a financial perspective. It was a really good first impression. The thing that stands out the most about Shadur is his toughness. He took some pretty big shots and he kept rolling. He can stand in the pocket and deliver it. He can move and create a bit. He has some ability to move out of the pocket, and he does create on his own. He's not a high-end dynamic scrambler necessarily, but he is productive when he does. And he really has a good feel for anticipation and timing. You can tell he's been coached in that regard. Those things show up on tape. Now, here's what's interesting.
I was going to say, because none of that news was new to me.
No,
I don't think it was to you either. But,
no, it's not new, but the listeners need to know.
Right. But I mean, but him saying it does bring
I'm not surprised that he thinks all the. But here's the thing. He was also asked about Cam Ward.
What he said?
Here's what Callahan said of Cam Ward. He does some really cool stuff. He has a really loose throwing motion, and I mean that in the best way. He can spin the ball well. He has all the different arm angles. He has the ability to move and create. He's put some really impressive throws on tape. Without knowing the person at all, because he hasn't met him yet, just from what I've seen in a limited viewing, he's incredibly talented. I think you see him do some things that are very unique in his ability to throw the ball. So to me, I kind of look at it and I go, he hasn't seen a lot of Cam Ward. And guess what? Guess who's not doing the all-star circuit? Cam Ward. Your first exposure to Cam Ward is really going to be at the combine. I've just found that a little interesting.
Well, I mean, that's by coincidence, but Cam Ward is a better talent, obviously. One thing that he didn't say, I want to hear on Shador, is he didn't talk about anything about his arm strength, because I think there is some questions there when I watch him on tape. So I'm interested to see what he would say about arm strength, and that will be shown probably at the combine. But Cam Jordan, he's a heck of a talent. I say he's a looser, better version. I'm going to keep saying it. And Will Levis didn't throw from different launch angles. Actually Cam can. So that's a little different. A better version and with a lot more confidence in his ability as a player. It's interesting. We didn't hear anything about timing, though, huh?
Nothing about timing.
We did about Shador,
He did say limited viewing. So, it's interesting the stuff that he said and focused in on with one person versus the other.
So to this point, though, to exactly what you said first, and then I chimed in, Shador fits this offense better based off already what he said. Now, he limited amount that he's seen on Cam, who's a better prospect, but that doesn't mean he's the better player in this offense.
And I will say, remember what I said earlier when we were talking at the top of the hour about what he said about Will Levis? He's not a precision timing passer.
Right.
Someone sounds like a precision timing passer. Real quick. Callahan was asked, what traits he looks for in a quarterback, and I think this is the perfect time to play that.
Well, I think you got to find. I think you're looking more for particular traits, and one of the biggest ones that I see right now, and the ones that good quarterbacks I've been around is, it's going to sound a little bit strange, but what's their nervous system like? What is it? What do they look like when things break down? How do they operate when the pocket is muddy? How do they operate under critical duress and critical pressure? Those are the things that I look at. And how does their brain essentially respond? How does their body respond to those stressors? I think a really good example of what incredible poise and calmness looks like is just you watch Jaden Daniels play.
First name that came to my mind when you said
the moment's never too big for him. Pressure never rattles him. He's efficient in his movement. He's efficient in his delivery. That's kind of what I mean by that. And look, Jaden is turning out to be what might be an incredibly rare prospect that, I would say probably, look, he was taken second overall. So like nobody missed on him. You know what I mean?
Right.
They knew he was a good player, but I'm just saying he was, I think he's exceeded whatever expectations a lot of people maybe had of him. And it's been kind of cool to watch as a fan of quarterback play, but his poise is incredible. And that's what you have to have. And then you watch the great players in our league. And I mean, you look at Mahomes and Burrow and Allen and Lamar. I mean, you watch these guys play ball, Stafford. There's something about how they operate. And like I said, their nervous system is a huge part of that. And then there's three things that I always look at, and it's decision-making, timing, and accuracy. That's quarterback play in the NFL. And you have to be able to, when those moments come where you have to throw the football and everyone in the stadium knows you have to throw the football, can you do it? Can you make those throws in those big moments? And that's what separates, I think, all the quarterbacks in the league, the great ones from the guys that are just good. And that's what you look for, is how does their nervous system work under pressure, and can they make good decisions? Can they throw on time? And most importantly, are they accurate? And I think you see that in the quarterbacks that are all still playing right now. But that's how I look at the position, and I think those are the most important things you look for when you're looking at it.
I mean, it's interesting because people hear the poise in the muddy pocket and being able to create plays and stuff, and I think that's a very underrated part of Shedeur Sanders' game. Mm-hmm. It's not the same wow factor as what's with Cam Ward, but that's kind of Shedeur Sanders' game. It's nothing overly exciting. He's like B+ across the board, where you get these highs and lows of Cam Ward. But he even says here, talking about that, he can stand in the pocket and deliver it. We've talked about that numerous times, how he always keeps his eyes downfield and he never gets rattled. And he can move and create a bit, has some ability to move out the pocket and create some on his own. And he says he's not dynamic. Obviously, Cam Ward's dynamic, but he's not dynamic. But a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL aren't dynamic like that. I'm just saying, again, it's not about being it depends on what this team is really looking for long term. But if they're really behind Brian Callahan, I will keep going back to Shedeur Sanders is the better fit for what Brian Callahan wants. Does not necessarily mean that's the better quarterback in this draft class.
Well, what happens here is, and I get everything you're saying, and I agree with you, is they take the better prospect and they say, I can teach him to run and be in my system. And that's what happens with the better prospect. And I think that's what really is going to happen here if they take a quarterback. And I think Cam Ward is going to be, he's a better prospect and his upside is higher, and they're going to teach him how to play within this system. Now, right now, it's obvious to us, and he just said it a little bit there, is that Shedeur Sanders fits this up. There is no parts of that teaching now. Only thing I want to see is his deep arm strength. That tells me velocity, speed, and everything else. That's not the end-all, be-all. That's actually last on my list of things that I want on my quarterback. One thing he didn't say there about quarterbacks is having, he talked about, them having patience, coolness, and calmness in the pocket. But in those critical moments, do they relax? And here's what happened. He talks about the nervous system. I want to say central nervous system, but he talks about the nervous system. No, what happens is everything freaking slows down, and then they still continue to go at full throttle because they slow down, but their mechanics and everything else, and they see it clear as day. Trust me, I haven't been a quarterback, but I've been a defensive back, and I definitely know when things slow down all of a sudden, and then things then looks easy to you. And that's what eventually happens to all these elite quarterbacks, no matter what time. I said this about Tannehill. I never heard Tannehill or see Tannehill play at a high level in a meaningful moment in a game and make those big throws when needed. Every time he fell short.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. And I will say this about both these guys. In this, they're both cool as a cucumber.
Yes, they got it. I
mean, both of them. They got that killer instinct. We've seen Cam Ward try to make comeback wins and all that kind of stuff. And listen, sometimes he's the reason he has to make a comeback win. Yeah. And then both of them suffered from really bad defenses. Colorado more so than Miami. Miami had a better offensive line than Colorado. Like, these guys, the big separator is the athleticism and I think the arm strength. And some people really value that in the NFL. I don't know if I value it as much as Zach Lyons from 2013.
We just saw Levis has big arm. Big arm.
Yeah.
We saw what that means to certain quarterbacks depending on all the other variables around big arm.
Like, I think people get so wrapped up into that kind of stuff.
That's like the 40-yard dash.
Right. You're totally correct. Like, the 40-yard dash is fine, but how many times are you running a 40-yard dash in a straight line? Sometimes that's why you got to look at the 3-cone or the other information. But there is, because there's some people that are saying that Shedeur Sanders is immature in the chat. Based off this clip, this conversation he had with Cam Ward, they train together. For the most part, I think they train a lot together. Shedeur also has been vouched for by minority owner and trained by minority owner Tom Brady as well. Just throw that out there. But here's a conversation because the whole generational thing that Mike Bergonzi said popped up, and here's what Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders were talking about.
Hey, man. Listen, I'm a generational talent. I'm going to prove him right. I'm going to prove him right. Don't worry.
Oh, my gosh. That was more and more.
That's how I knew it. Who said that? Actually, nah. An article came out today. I'm generational. So I guess it's article versus article. I like that you think that, man. But we all know the truth. What? Trap gonna be first? They know what's best. They know it's best, like I told Joe. He don't know what that pressure like.
Okay, that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. But if you were listening, he said, Cam Ward says, I'm generational. I believe Shadur Sanders responds back, I'm legendary. And someone in the chat called that immature. Do you think that's, I like that attitude for my quarterback.
I think they were talking about different articles too as well. It just came out.
They were comparing different articles that were written about each of them individually. Gotcha. And so I think they were kind of joking around saying, hey, someone said that I'm generational. Hey, someone said that I'm generational. Well, someone said that I'm legendary. So
gotcha.
And then they went back. Shador. They went back and said, or I think it was Ward that said it, or no, Shador that said it. You mean Trav's going to be first overall?
Right.
So, I mean, they were just joking around. No, if you're taking that into term,
nobody's generational, by the way, in this draft. I see people saying Carter's generational.
The only thing I've seen Shador say, which was a couple years ago when he was, I think, he threw his offensive line under the bus.
Well, I think it was this year. He threw. This year? I believe so. I believe it was this year. Then a couple weeks later, he responded better to a similar question and took more blame and handled himself poorly. I mean.
I think the one thing this year was, I can't remember exactly which game it was, but they were getting their butts kicked, and with like 2 or 3 minutes left to go in the game, he left and went to the locker room. He left the sideline early. Like, I don't think it was because of an injury. I think that was kind of the one thing that popped out this year. But other than that,
I don't think I've heard that.
Yeah,
I mean, I've just missed that.
I'll have to find what game it was after.
Gotcha.
But
we see you guys calling in. So 615-737-1045. You want to weigh in on the conversation? We'll get to the last thing we didn't get to a lot of this. So 3HL will probably have some, and we'll be talking about a lot of this over the year because we got to always say, how much of this translates into 2025 success? Like, how much of this are we going to come back to and say, well, you said this in 2020, in an interview. Did you live up to it? So we'll talk a lot about that when we come back. It's Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 if you want to get in on the conversation. Jim Wyatt just reported that Titans assistant Scott Fuchs will coach the national team offensive lineman at the Senior Bowl. He is the assistant offensive line coach for the Tennessee Titans. He came from Kansas, where he was the offensive line coach. And, of course, his name escapes me right now, but the Titans also have a representative on serving as special teams coordinator down there as well. I know it's Peyton McCollum over there. Perry something we talked about last week.
Perry
so I was trying to find it while we were at break.
We did find out who was an assistant, right, with the special teams coach with Bones, right?
Well, Renee Stewart, who you played with.
Former Titan, by the way, a safety who then eventually started with the Jaguars. So he's been coaching for a while now, too.
Yep. The guy that I was trying to remember, Perry Carter. So I was close. I thought his name was Perry. Perry Carter, who is a defensive coaching assistant, is serving on as special teams coordinator at the Senior Bowl. So they got two coaches down at the Senior Bowl. Awesome. All right, let's go to Tyler in Nashville. He wants to talk about the NFC Championship. Tyler, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, how's it going, y'all?
Going good. How are you?
Good.
Doing good. I just want y'all were talking about the most valuable non-quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sam Cosmi, the right guard for Washington, he was giving about before he went out, they were giving up around 17% pressure rate, and then after he went out, this is with 8 missing D linemen from the Lions. They gave up around 45% after he went out. I'm simply saying Jalen Carter is going to get either double or triple teamed, and Mill Williams is going to be left one-on-one against the left guard, or they're just going to leave Jalen Carter. I mean, I just think Jalen Carter's going to have a monster game because with having the backup right guard and the pressure rate against the Lions, he's just going to have a monster game. So I think Jalen Carter will be the most valuable player, non-quarterback, for the championship game.
Awesome. I like that. I think
we would have lost without Jalen Carter this last week. If you watch the tape, he got a sack and a QB hit at the end of the game and won the game.
So Tyler, Tyler, just real quick, can you spell Eagles unlike was it the mayor of Philadelphia?
E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles.
Thank you, Tyler. I don't know if you've seen that clip of this woman. Is she mayor? I believe she's mayor. But she spells Eagles. She goes E-L-E-S-G-E-S or something like that. And she just totally butchers it. Never seen anything. But she did it with such confidence. You have to admire it.
Oh, no, you have to laugh at it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to laugh at it, too. Well, just real quick, we've been talking.
Let me hear you all say E-L-G-L-E-S, Eagles.
That was not real. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Oh, that's great. Just real quick.
I mean, come on.
So I know that we said technically because of injury, but I do feel like I owe you and your wife a night out, a dinner.
Then I win the bet.
Because technically you would have probably won the bet. Because here's what Brian Callahan had to say about how he would do things differently regarding playing Traylon Burks over NWI.
You see a guy like Trey who's got talent, and our job as coaches is to try to get the most out of the talent, and you try to give opportunities to improve. And one of the things that Trey did that was important for him is that he came back in phenomenal shape at training camp. He was dialed in. He knew what to do, and again he's a first round pick. And those guys that are first round picks and have talent. Oftentimes are afforded a longer opportunity than others. And that's just the nature of the business in the NFL. That's how it works. You get your picked high, you have your high draft pick, you're invested in, and we're a new staff. And so we're trying to get the best out of the talent that was at hand. And, Trey did a good job. And there was things that I probably look at, and could we have gotten Nick involved more often earlier? Yeah, there's certainly things that I think we could have done to involve him earlier. And I told him that at the end of the year that I wish that I recognized his value quicker. He has a huge value in terms of what he does in the run game. He can play all three positions. He makes contested catches. He's big. He's strong. those are things that we could use. And I told him after the season that I wish I would have found a role for him earlier on. And whether that role was big or small, obviously things changed when we traded D-Hop, and then Trey got hurt. So then it was sort of thrust into a position that he wasn't in at the beginning of the year, right? He ends up being our really number 2 receiver, number 2.5 between him and Tyler, depending on what personnel group we're in. And so now he's thrust and he has, triple the opportunities he would have had at the early part of the year. And he answered the bell. He played really well for us, and he became a valuable part of our offense. And he's a guy that you love to have return, and those are things for as the upcoming weeks and free agency begins. But I do think that there was a role for Nick earlier. But again, you're juggling, trying to get to know everybody, trying to get to know how they fit. Having Calvin, having D-Hop, and then you got Trey. So there's 3. And so where does the 4th play? And then you had Tyler. So we had some moving.
So we're going to fade him down real quick because he's a long-winded guy. Yeah. But real quick, because you've touched on this numerous times, the reason why Treylon Burks was getting so much run, getting so much, things put out there about him was because he was a number 1 pick.
Yeah, he was the first round
and he
pick.
said it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And by the way, I said that NWI would beat him out.
You did.
Because you get to see exactly what I love. The better athlete didn't win.
Right.
The better football player won, and that was NWI.
That was NWI's, and I would expect, if I'm putting money on it, with the way they're talking about free agency and the approach to free agency, the NWI is going to be one of the guys they re-sign and bring back for this locker room. That'll be it for us. 3HL's up next. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons on 104.5 The Zone. And in the meantime...
And in between time.
Peace.